Activated, your window into how we can change the way in which we aspire for persons with disabilities, how we change our expectations from seeing inability to expecting ability. Activated takes us on a journey of taking lessons from persons with disabilities in how we must do things differently to unleash the contributions persons with disabilities can and must make to building a disability-inclusive Mzansi. Hello and welcome to Activated with me, Taryn Tomlinson. Most persons with disabilities are dependent on services and opportunities created in and by the public service. Policymakers and frontline public servants as such play a crucial part in changing the narrative for persons with disabilities. The slogan, "Nothing about us without us," has placed public servants with disabilities across all three spheres of government at the core of ensuring that all public services are accessible for persons with disabilities. In this episode, we speak to a few of the public servants with disabilities who are tasked with advocating for effective mainstreaming of disability services and the creation of equitable opportunities across government. We also explore how they balance their disability rights activism with their public service responsibilities. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get activated. In today's show, we talk to Petronella Linders, ICT accessibility expert representing national government, who ensures product development across all information and communication platforms. We visit Zain Bulbulia, Head Director of the Gauteng Disability Program in the Chief Directorate of the Committee on Gender, Youth and People with Disabilities. And in studio, we chat to Commissioner Malatji of the South African Human Rights Commission, tasked with advocating and upholding the rights of persons with disabilities. Petronella Linders is the highest-ranking public servant with a disability currently in South Africa. A veteran of the disability rights struggle, she entered the public service post-1994 with the specific aim to ensure that the fourth industrial revolution is inclusive of persons with disabilities. We head to Pretoria to meet Petronella. Petronella Linders has been instrumental in the development of the South African government's disability and ICT strategy, and it is largely her leadership that resulted in South Africa being ranked as a world leader in the disability accessibility rights evaluation.
My naam is Petronella, my van is Linders. Ek werk tans vir die Departement van Kommunikasie en Digitale Tegnologie. Dit het begin toe ek op hoërskool was in die huidige graad 10. Die maandag gaan ek skool toe en die hoof sê vir my ma dat ongelukkig kan hulle my nie meer by gewone skool hê nie. Ek moet na 'n skool vir blindes toe gaan volgende jaar. Op daardie stadium het ek eens geweet wat 'n skool vir blindes is nie. Toe ons nou na die prinsipaal se kantoor toe gaan, word ek gesê ek kan nie wiskunde doen nie, ek moet fisiologie doen. En dit was waar ek myself afgevra het, maar hoekom kan ek dit nie doen nie? En ek besluit toe nee, ek gaan terug na die hoërskool toe waar ek was en ek gaan my matriek by 'n gewone skool klaarmaak. En dis hoe ek dink my aktivisme regtig begin het, want ek het net daar besluit hierdie is 'n belangrike fase in my lewe. Ek wil nie in 'n situasie wees waar ek geforseer word om iets te doen wat ek nie wil doen nie. Een van die hoogtepunte van my loopbaan was toe ek deel was van 'n span wat gewerk het aan die werksgelykheid wetgewing in die land omdat gestremdheid gesien was as 'n mediese kondisie. Tot vandag toe het ons die wetgewing, the Employment Equity Act. Gestremdheid forceer jou om tegnologie te gebruik. Ons is nou in die 4de revolusie waar biologiese, digitale en fisiese tegnologie by mekaar uitgekom het. Byvoorbeeld die bank wat ek huidiglik gebruik. Die rede hoekom ek die bank gebruik is omdat hy vooruitstrewend is rondom tegnologie. En tegnologie maak dit makliker vir my as 'n gestremde persoon. As ek die vermoë het om daai tegnologie te kan gebruik, dan kan ek amper enige iets doen. As jy na gestremdheid kyk as 'n groep, dan kan ek sê dat dit baie verander. Gestremdheid was nie eens genoem in die konstitusie voor 1994 nie. Gestremde mense is net mense. Probeer om vriende te maak met iemand wat gestremd is. As jy nog nooit in jou lewe 'n vriend gehad het wat gestremd is nie, probeer net om vriende te maak en leer ken 'n gestremde persoon.
Na die kort onderbreking gesels ons met advokaat Bokankatla, Joseph Malatji, wat geskiedenis gemaak het as die eerste swart blinde student wat in 1971 aan die Universiteit van die Noorde toegelaat is. Hy was ook die eerste swart blinde persoon wat as advokaat van die Hoofgeregshof in 1977 toegelaat is. Ons is nou weer terug. Welcome back. Commissioner Malatji is the disability focal point in the South African Human Rights Commission, tasked with advocating and upholding the rights of persons with disabilities. He therefore has the responsibility to serve the public by ensuring that government meets its obligations contained in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Welcome, Commissioner. It's so lovely to have you join us here today, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Commissioner, as the first black blind student to be admitted at the University of the North in 1971, and then to be the first black blind person to be admitted as advocate of the Supreme Court of South Africa, what has been your personal highlights over the past 27 years of changing the narrative for persons with disabilities and their families?
I started by trying to convince and show the community, small community that I lived in, that some of the things can be done, even if, somebody is disabled. For instance, to give an example, 35 years ago, in a real rural area, I built up, a butchery. In an area where there was no electricity, I had to buy a generator. I had to buy good refrigeration just to convince people that a blind person can do things that they think cannot be done. In terms of my career, that was quite a big battle because people, especially in the provinces, I'm held up here in the northern province. They couldn't believe that a blind person could become a lawyer and give legal advice to people who are sighted.
What are some of the bottlenecks or pervasive obstacles that slow down progress? And I suppose, how best can South African government address those issues?
Government must implement the policies and legislation. We've got so many good acts. For instance, we've got our Promotion of Equality and the Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Act. That's a very good act, but I'm afraid, up to date, government is not implementing that successfully. And we've got our Equality Act, the Equality Act. That act, it goes to the bottom of outlawing discrimination based on disability, based on race, based on gender, But this is not being implemented to its fullest. Organizations like the Human Rights Commission must at all times see to it that government really implements this legislation.
And then lastly, Commissioner, what would you like to be your legacy in changing the narrative for persons with disabilities in South Africa?
What I would like to happen is to see South Africa, implementing the Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities. And in particular, I would like to see that there's an independent monitoring mechanism that is a body comprising of the Human Rights Commission and civil society, whose duty is to monitor government implementation of the convention. And I'll be happy if when I leave the commission, I see that this independent monitoring mechanism has been established so that I know the rights of persons with disabilities will be monitored by persons with disabilities together with the Human Rights Commission.
Commissioner, thank you so much for taking of your time to come and spend with us today and to enlighten us on these issues.
Thank you.
Zain Bulbulia is die hoof van die gestremdheidseenheid in Gauteng en werk vanuit die kantoor van die premier. Hy was aan die spits van verskeie inisiatiewe wat die insluiting van persone met gestremdhede in die ekonomie ondersteun, sowel as om sosiale transformasie en die insluiting van gestremdhede te verseker. Ons vind uit meer. He is the head of disability mainstreaming in the Gauteng province, operating from the office of the Premier, making him responsible to ensure a coordinated approach for the mainstreaming of disability between provincial government departments.
South Africa since 1994 has made big strides in terms of getting the rights of people with disabilities out there. They've come up with the white paper on the rights of people with disabilities. Gauteng's got its policy, but it's all about policy. In terms of service delivery, that's where we're lacking. So we're still lacking on the delivery for people with disabilities. It's huge, especially children with disabilities, people with autism. So there are type of disabilities within the sector that are but marginalized. We still have the issue for deaf persons and blind people. So we still got a long way to go. And it's about having the correct political head that would drive this process forward. What we've done in Gauteng, we started a program called ECI, Early Childhood Identification. So it's identifying a kid at birth, whether the kid has a disability, and then work on that from 0 to 3 months and 3 to 6, beyond moving up so that we could track that disability and give the necessary equipment or needs or assistive devices. Being in government and being an activist for disability, you're wearing two hats at the same time. At one stage, you're sitting with all the guys with civil society with disabilities and they're all your mates, and you need to advocate for the rights. And then also being in government and following the legislation and policy and the terms of reference on how do you put the two together. But fortunately, with me, I can be able to juggle between the two and make it work and make the outcome positive for people with disabilities. So it's not only about disabilities. How do you build a community? How do you mainstream people? How do you get people with disabilities that own companies and businesses benefit from government in terms of the procurement services and all of that? And that's what we also look at. Is looking at we need to spend 7% of our target with companies owned by people with disabilities, but also employment. By year 2030, the vision that we have is to at least have 10% of people with disabilities employed within government. The legacy is basically to see that real rights are afforded to people, that companies owned by disabled people have the opportunity to do business with government, and obviously not the small little contracts of supplying tea and cake and lunches, but basically working within the bigger macro programs, construction, civil engineering, and that type of stuff. But the main thing is that equal rights for everyone should be adhered to and not be discriminated around issues that we're looking at. So that's my drive.
After the break, we look at REAH, an app you can download. Should you come across a deaf person, whether at a bus stop, counter, or at work, you can simply search for the words you want to sign and start the conversation. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Struggling to find a sign language interpreter for your event, business meetings, interviews, public service deliveries, or court proceedings? The REAH platform helps you to find the sign language interpreter at an affordable rate and your nearest location. Let's find out more.
Here in South Africa, we have different challenges for the deaf community. So I thought it would be better if we developed something without copying it from overseas. Our own local thing offering services for deaf people. I have 3 reasons for doing this. 1, interpreting is not easy to access. And secondly, interpreters are expensive. And thirdly, hearing people do not know sign language, and this offers a solution to that.
What are your plans in improving REAH app dictionary?
We have services that we offer online, even if you are far, for deaf people that they can be able to access digitally via REAH C9. And again, it's less expensive because the interpreter is not traveling. The interpreter is only translating via REAH C9. And again, with the REAH C9, you can connect to the interpreter anywhere you are, and that's how we solve the problem, by just connecting to REAH C9. And for more information, you can visit our website at www.reah.co.za.
Locus Tumahole is 'n aktivis vir sosiale geregtigheid en die insluiting van mense met gestremthede. Hy is die gestremdheidskoördineerder by die Umfuleni munisipaliteit en deel met ons die belangrikheid en die rol van plaaslike regering om die lewens vir persone met gestremthede te verbeter en te verander.
Lebitso la ka ke Lucky Tumahole, ke tla Havana, ke sebetsa ambulance municipality under Giori. Giori e emetse gender, youth and disability, and I'm a disability coordinator of the Locus municipality. Local government is what I call a grassroots government. On its own, it should reflect how our communities are served, how our communities are being treated. So, disabled people are part of the community, and local government should reflect that as well as the grassroots government. The biggest obstacle is attitude, political will from local government, I think we lack a political will more than anything else. I would like to be remembered as a, I don't know if I can use the term for fighter, no pun intended, but I would like to be remembered as someone who, when it comes to disability, I really want to fight, and not only myself, but collectively we can do that.
We thank all our public servants who are raising awareness around disability and who are making sure that government services become accessible to all. Ons het aan die einde gekom van nog 'n wonderlike program. Maar voor ons totsiens sê, laat ons julle met die woorde en stem van die skrywer Nathi Ngubane, wat 'n uittreksel uit sy boek Dumi Ses lees, 'n boekreeks wat hy tydens die COVID-19 pandemie geskryf en geïllustreer het oor kinders wat in informele nedersettings woon. Die boek is deur die minister van Gesondheid erken en dit het deel geword van die Suid-Afrikaanse COVID-19 storie. Nou toe, geniet julle dag verder. Tot volgende week, selfde tyd, slegs op SABC2, You Belong. Totsiens.
Hi there, my name is Nathi Ngubane and I'm the author and illustrator of Duma Says, Let's Live. Duma Says is an educational book about COVID-19. Duma lives with his family in an informal settlement in South Africa, and the book is about how they navigate the virus and how they come together and help their community sew masks, build a learning shelter, and find ways to play games during COVID-19. The age group is 4 to 10, but in spirit, I believe that this book is for everyone because there are also adults who aren't taking the pandemic seriously. My name is Duma, and I am 10 years old. I live with my sister Zinhle, who is 13 years old, my brother Wandile, who is 6 years old, Mama, Baba, and our dog Bubesi.